and suddenly, whoosh, we both just got sucked out. And we were out in over our heads within seconds. And then the waves that had been so calm and regular for a day and a half were just a washing machine, just rumble, 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 and they were pushing us under. And it was a kind of a situation where we just barely get our head out of the water, and another wave would smash us back under. Couldn't even get a full breath, and we both thought the end was there. We were convinced we were going to die. So I'm Gabe, and this is Larisa, and we came from the Philadelphia area, actually in the state of Delaware, but right near the city. We came from the city life.
We grew up, both of us, in the country, so it was kind of weird that we ended up pretty much all of our married life in cities around Philadelphia.
Yeah. So it wasn't a culture shock for us then, in the sense of moving from, a lot of people when they come to Panama, they're coming into a small town kind of mindset, or at least in this area, and that can be a culture shock already, which they get the same culture shock if they move to a small town in the United States. So we didn't have that issue. We enjoy the small town life, the slower pace.
And in terms of why we moved to Panama, I think there were a lot of reasons that kind of came to a head in 2020 that made us start thinking about a life change. So we have two children. They were 8 and 10 when we moved here, and that was 2 years ago almost. So they were a huge factor in our decision as well.
Yeah, so we were looking for different environment for the kids, and we were also looking for somewhere that just had really good climate, where we could be outside a lot more than we were in the United States, where it's always either too hot or too cold. But to find a place that has really good climate, like this in the mountains here is spring weather all year long. But it's hard to find that, and also find low cost of living and somewhere that's safe. And we zeroed in on Panama as one of the very few, if only, places that check all of our boxes. There's also other boxes like infrastructure, what else? Culture, anything else?
The ability to work from home and
right. So you can do an infrastructure for that with the internet and the power and all that good stuff.
And we've always sort of been attracted to the idea of living in another culture too, and just experiencing what that would be like. I grew up with a Spanish-speaking dad who never taught me Spanish, so I was really excited about the idea to kind of go back to my roots in a sense, to learn and to expose our children to another culture and language as well.
We'd love our kids to be bilingual. I don't know if that'll happen, but we do have a tutor coming, and our oldest is already speaking to the tutor for a solid hour, almost 100% in Spanish. So that's really encouraging. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. Yeah, we chose Volcan not right away. We first checked out a few other places, and the first place we tried was Costa del Cielo. Beautiful, amazing paradise, but too hot, at least when we were there. There's other seasons where it's a little more tolerable. But we only lasted 4 days. We were ready to get out of there, and we realized we already thought we were going to be more mountain people, but I mean, it's the Caribbean. We had to try Focus first, and at least give it a shot to see, if we enjoy that beach life. And then we checked out Boquete. That's where we kind of thought from our online research that we would end up. And we were there for 3 months, but the culture there is a little more retired expat kind of culture, and you can kind of imagine what that might be like. Here we have a little more laid-back expat community, and Volcan's a little more spread out geographically. Boquete is more like a bowl and a little claustrophobic there. So we really enjoy the families we met here. We're probably the biggest draw. There's families with children same age as our children. And what else?
I think one of the things that I really like about Volcan is it feels more like we're in a foreign country here than Boquete did anyway. You're forced to speak Spanish when you go out. You're forced to, in Boquete, I felt like there were so many English speakers. Everywhere you went, there were English speakers. It felt very touristy. I would get anxiety attacks just driving through the main street, where it was really stressful and tiny parking and all that. But coming here, it feels like you feel like you can breathe. It's just this beautiful open farmland everywhere. Horses are huge here. I mean, you see people riding horses all the time in town, and that was a huge draw for being here as well with our kids. And then, I just think the climate is slightly cooler, and really beautiful. We just love it. There's many places to go hiking for free in Volcan, and that's not the case in other places. So that really introduced us to Volcan in a huge way, just joining a hiking group and kind of filling out the map in our brain with the beauty around here.
One really cool thing about Panama is temperature. You get to basically choose your own temperature. So the temperature is so consistent, then you just choose the elevation that matches your comfort level. And Volcan definitely is 100% our comfort level. And I think it's actually pretty unique in Panama. This temperature is just every day is spring. It's amazing. Love it.
And we love the rain too. So that's
Yeah.
not for everybody. It gets pretty rainy here in the rainy season. But our whole family loves the rain. So we love the sun in the morning and then the rain in the afternoon during the rainy season. And we love the dry season. We just love everything about it.
Yeah, so I did have to figure out how to keep running my business from a foreign country. And I think it's going to be way different for everybody, but I'm the type of manager that likes to delegate. So I already had delegated a lot of the things that I used to do piecemeal to other employees who all work remotely for me. So I did also have a physical aspect to the business, because what I do is I repair fitness equipment. So obviously that's not just an online job. And I had to figure out how to make sure that the physical aspects, like parts being delivered, mail, and things like that, the vehicles, where those are going to be stored, I had to solve all of those problems before I could leave the country. But I had already sort of been running the business from my basement, and I didn't have a brick and mortar building. I'd been doing that for years, and I realized I could do that from anywhere in the country. Just had to solve a few logistics, rent a small warehouse spot where I could have packages delivered. I ended up using a storage facility for that. It's really hard to find a storage facility that will accept your packages and then deliver them to your unit, but I found one. And also mail, like checks. When business checks come in, I realized there's now a what's it called, virtual mail. So I don't have to deal with paper anymore. They just scan everything for me and email it to me, and all my checks they just send to my bank. So that solved that problem. And just the vehicles, I have those parked with my employees. It's just kind of a benefit. They park those at their house, and I can go straight to work from their home. So everyone's situation is going to be different. But once I figured out those things, I can run that I can manage that from anywhere in the world. Larisa helps me, and we have our laptops out. Sometimes we'll have them out on the beach doing our work, or we can definitely do it from home, go outside on the porch. As long as you have good internet and power, then everything works.
I would say once in a while we have run into power issues where there are power outages here. So, but I remember the one time there was a power outage, we just decided to drive down the mountain to the beach to work.
Yeah.
And that ended up being an amazing experience. So, and then, we live kind of far out of town. So if the power's out here, sometimes it's not affecting the town. So we can always just drive into town and go to a coffee shop or something like that. But other than that, it's been working really well for us. Very flexible. Mm-hmm. In terms of one of the ways that we got to know this area, as I mentioned previously, was through a hiking group. And that really helped us to not only just make friends in Volcan right away, but to explore the different areas up here in Tierras Altas. Volcan is located really close to Paso Ancho and Cerro Punta and Guadalupe, which goes all the way up to where they do most of the growing of the produce in Panama. And there's so many wonderful, beautiful there's national parks there, but there's also just random trails everywhere. We've even gone down the mountain a little bit to Cuesta de Piedra, Cuatro Rios, Cordillera. And they're just beautiful. They're all different. We've been on hikes that are just kind of dry and plains as far as you can see all the way to the ocean, or we've done really difficult hikes that climb very steep mountains and have the most beautiful views of the vertical farming, especially in Paso Ancho and Cerro Punta. And like I said before, they're all free, all the trails. And now that we know, we went on like 50 hikes, I think, the first year we were here, and we know the area now. So now we just go on our own hikes. We
actually found the trails. We're like, wait, I think I know where a trail is, and we just went through the barbed wire fence and found a trail going to Paso Ancho from here. And there's like 3 or 4 trails just right around where we live here, and we take advantage of those quite a bit. The kids can actually ride on those trails as well, which is one of the main reasons we chose the location that we did. Yeah, horses were not a thing for us in the city area, because that was for rich people, and just wasn't even on our radar, wasn't on our kids' radar. But one of the first places we stayed when we came here, there were some young girls riding on horses nearby, and Aria's eyes just got wide, and she said, what'd she say?
I want to do that.
Yeah. So she just immediately decided she wanted to do that, so we got her some horse lessons. And here in Volcan, that was interesting. There was a young woman from South Africa who was really skilled, and she gave them some basic lessons, but she had to move on and do other things in terms of her career. So we also had a Panamanian guy who goes, oh yeah, I do horse lessons, horse riding. But he would take the kids and just basically almost just like a big tour, 3-hour trail ride. And sometimes the kids would go off without him. And he wouldn't really be teaching them. They would just be riding for 3 hours. And the kids loved that. That's the one they wanted. They didn't want to go get those stupid lessons about how to groom and get on a horse. They wanted to just ride. And they got some dangerous situations, and they came back saying, oh, I almost died today. And but they loved it. They always wanted to go back, and it wasn't a passing fad. They, a year later, they're still riding and wanting to go, riding with their friends, and there's a little group that would go, Panamanian and expat. So they loved it, which is when we decided to maybe consider getting some horses ourselves and looking for a place that had some pasture where we could take care of them and just learn how to be horse owners. So we learned quickly, and we're still learning.
Thankfully to our South African friends, she gave them a good basis for safety.
Yeah, yes. And care of the horses. We still text and call people for help. Like, what am I supposed to do about this? And
there are reasonably priced farriers and vets that will come right to your property to take care of your animals and give them the shots they need, or we recently had shoes put on the horses.
Yeah, so we pay. Owning horses does cost money. There's not quite enough pasture for the horses we have, so we feed them a lot of hay, as well as every day we feed them grain and alfalfa. So there's a cost to that, but it's a reasonable cost for what our kids are getting out of it. Just being able to have the freedom to hop on a horse and ride to their friend's house 2 miles down the road, or grab one of these trails and just be gone for 3 hours and do a loop and come back. We send them out with a phone and hope nothing happens, but so far it's been pretty danger-free for them, and it's just a delight seeing them get on the horses and just ride off like they know what they're doing, like they've been doing it their whole life. And this would have never happened back in the States.
Also for horses, since we're renters, that was one big question for us. How do we board horses? And we were able to find a rental property where our landlord actually already has horses. And the situation worked out so that we could pasture our horses here as long as we also took care of his, since he doesn't live here. So that's worked out really well. So we actually are taking care of 4 horses now, and we're able to pasture them for free. And then also some other horse owners in town who also rent. Another option is to ask local farmers that have pasture land if you could rent their fields.
Like some of the Panamanians, they'll rent the field to you for $20 a month per horse, which is a really good deal. It's not that easy to find a house with pasture, because usually all the pasture land is reserved for the very large farms like Von Lack that have millions of acres, and they got cows, and you can't really put your horses on there. So it's hard to find a house with pasture. If you look hard enough and you have patience, though, you can find something. Beach experiences. Well, when we first came to Panama and we went to Costa Rica, we rented a house that was out on the water, and you had to take a boat to it. There was no getting there on land. So we get there on a boat, and there's this cloud cover, and the water's just smooth as glass, and we get out, and we all just jumped right in the water, and we're just looking at each other like, did we die in the plane crash on the way here? Because this is like heaven. This is amazing. So that was our first experience of the ocean and waters on the Caribbean side. Another experience that was not quite as amazing on the Pacific side started off amazing. We were staying at a hotel resort, and we'd been told that the beaches there were really safe. So we had been swimming in the water for a day and a half with our boogie boards and something to float with, and never any incidents, no riptides or anything like that. But we were a day and a half into it, and then my son asked if we could just go play in the water up to our knees without any boards or anything. I said, yeah, that's fine, we'll just go out and play. So we were out there playing, and we were getting kind of pulled sideways for quite a distance, and I didn't realize till later that's how you can get pulled into a riptide. And I sat down in the water. The water was only up to maybe just a little above my knees, and I kind of sat down with my legs pointed out to the ocean, and suddenly, whoosh, we both just got sucked out, and we were out in over our heads within seconds. And then the waves that had been so calm and regular for a day and a half were just a washing machine, just rumble, 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 and they were pushing us under. And it was kind of a situation where we just barely get our head out of the water, and another wave would smash us back under. Couldn't even get a full breath, and we were in that situation for about, it seemed like an eternity. I don't know how long it was, but I was at the end of my breath. I hadn't swallowed any water, but it was like I was drowning because I couldn't get enough oxygen. In Ryland the same, and we both thought the end was there. We were convinced we were going to die, and just at that last second, my toe hit some sand, and it's just an amazing testimony of my son, how brave he is. He didn't try to hold on to me real tight so that he wouldn't drown. When he would hold on to me for a second, he felt me struggling, he would let go. And thankfully we got some really good swimming lessons for the year or two before we left for Panama, and that saved his life because he was able to hold his own. He didn't drown me, and then when I was able to get a toe hold, I was able to motion for him to come over and get him back to safety. And by the time we got back to the beach, she had just discovered us because she couldn't see us. And then by the time we got back there, I collapsed and was trying to breathe for the next 2 hours. It was a really scary situation. And we found out later that, I don't know if it was a week or two later, a young boy, the same age as Rylan, died at the same beach. And it happens over and over and over in Panama. There's no lifeguards, there's no warning signs. You think the beach is safe, you get caught, and it's over. And there's tourists and Panamanians who are dying all the time on the beaches here. It's just, that's a red flashing warning for you. Go out, enjoy the water, go to the safe beaches, but use flotation devices and be careful and wise. And if you're getting sucked sideways, do your research about what a riptide is and make sure you're not getting sucked into one.
We also now, when we go to the beach, we check the tide charts, and we try to go at low tide now. There are some other really nice beaches somewhat close to us. I would say from Volcan, you have to travel at least an hour and 15, an hour and a half to get to the beaches. Our favorite beaches are the Boquete Islands, which you have to drive 2 hours to get there to the pier, and then you have to hire a charter. So we usually go with multiple families just to make it more fun and cost effective. But it's about a 20 to half an hour boat ride then out to the islands. Some of them are closer too, but they're like what you picture when you picture Pacific Islands, with clear blue water and white sand beaches and palm trees. And usually the boats just drop you off in the morning and pick you up later in the afternoon, so you have to bring your own food and your own supplies and things like that. But we love doing that.
So we still go to the beach even after that experience, but you got to go to the right places with the right people and
respect the water.
Yeah, respect the water. And these islands, though, it's like almost being in the Caribbean. The water's clear and beautiful, and there's depending on how far you want to drive, there's amazing places to go here, even living in the mountains.
One of the great benefits of moving here and having a lower cost of living is that when I started working for the family business, we also started homeschooling our children, and it was a little overwhelming to do all of that and also take care of the house and cook meals. And so one of the benefits of living here is we were able to find a house cleaner to come once a week. And so I usually go to town to get her and bring her to the house. And then we also have meals delivered several evenings a week. We have a friend who cooks meals for us, and we pay her to cook meals. Actually, 2 friends to cook meals for us. We pay them, and then we have a delivery guy on a motorcycle that drives out to deliver the meals. And so that's been really a stress relief for us here and a huge help. But we never would have been able to afford that where we came from, and so I really appreciated that we're able to do that here, and also support local house cleaners and businesses and women who are trying to start cooking and having that as their home business. So it's been really.
So one of the women cooks mostly Panamanian and a little bit of what she would probably consider American type dishes, and she's very creative and does a good job. She cooks for us 3 times a week. Then another lady, she's from, I guess, Indonesia, and she cooks Thai and Indian and Indonesian and Vietnamese, all kinds of awesome Asian dishes.
There are some good restaurants here in town for sure, and if you're looking for variety, you can find some of it. But yeah, that's been really nice for us to have different people cook for us and having variety, which is our preference, but it depends on your taste and what you're looking for.
My advice for someone moving to Panama, there's so many ways in which that question could be answered because there's so many subjects to answer that question on. One, though, would be just in terms of expectations. If you have a first world expectation in terms of just things making sense, if you don't have a lot of patience and you want things done right now, you'll be gone soon because it's just not going to go your way. So just be willing to adjust your expectations to. It's not third world here, but it's also not first world. So there's going to be times when you're going to be frustrated because you have a desire to get something done, or whatever it is that you're needing in the moment. It can be slowed down quite a bit by the red tape here and just the mindset here. Like she said, there's not a lot of forethought. Like Americans really plan ahead, and Panamanians just kind of take it day by day. So if you have patience and you don't have first world expectations, you can get through these things. You just got to ask people how to get through them, and not it's something you're going to shake your head at, but you just figure it out and you go through.
I think two of the things that served us really well coming here was, number one, we were inclined to like this place. Even before we saw it, we came with our expectation was we're gonna look at the positive side of things. We're gonna look at, we came with a positive attitude, and I think that served us really well. Even when we were robbed one of the first weeks we were here, our car was broken into, and we had the harrowing beach experience. We had to wait way longer for things to happen than we were expecting. It just is the second thing is having a sense of humor, and I think having a sense of humor about those things and just embracing it and kind of even enjoying it a little bit when those instances crop up. That's really served us well being here. And I have to say, I kind of am fond of the Panamanian way. And on the flip side of the things that can be frustrating for organized and expats with high standards, on the flip side of that, it's wonderful to be in a culture that is so relaxed, and that isn't, one of the things that I appreciate the most about living in this area especially is that people aren't looking over their neighbors' fences and trying to find things wrong with each other. It's kind of like live and let live here. Everybody's very peaceful and very has a sense of goodwill toward one another, and I really appreciate that about living here, especially in Volcan.
Yeah, another piece of advice would be just be careful about buying something too quickly. Take your time, get to know the area, get to know the process for these things, and don't be too quick to pull the trigger. People will try to pressure you into buying a property or a house because they're desperate to sell, and so they'll act like they have all these other offers, And we just hear story after story of people saying, either they got scammed or they just made a decision too quickly, and that they wish they hadn't pulled the trigger in that particular area because now they want to move somewhere else and now it's hard to sell. And there may be other times when it's easy to sell, but you make that decision after you understand the landscape. After you've been here a while, you'll make your decisions a lot more smartly, intelligently.
And we made our decision about this area because of community, and because we found many like-minded families or families just that we just love and have kids our kids' ages, and I have to say we were so surprised to find such a vibrant, welcoming, international community here. There's lots of different languages spoken. People from many different countries come here too. So I know our family's part of a small co-op that we really enjoy, and I think looking for community is really important.
It's actually easier here to make friends and find community than it was back home. We didn't know that. We thought we'd just be making friends with Panamanians, but then you end up finding all these expats, and you're automatically making friends just because you have some commonalities there with the language and the history, and that's been a real surprise and joy for us.